Okay, imagine this. You pull up to a major sports stadium, maybe Dodger Stadium, right? But instead of fans, you see dozens of federal agents
Yeah.
in full tactical gear, faces hidden.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty jarring picture, isn't it? Swapping baseball caps for tactical helmets.
Definitely not what you expect to see there.
Exactly. And this isn't hypothetical. It's a real kind of surprising standoff that happened recently right outside the stadium in Los Angeles.
That's right.
So today, that's what we're diving into. This specific incident involving U.S. immigrations and customs enforcement, ICE agents, and how the Dodgers organization actually responded. Our mission here is really to get past those first headlines, unpack the details, look at the bigger picture of protests happening in L.A. around then, and just see how people reacted.
Yeah, there are a lot of different reactions.
Right. We want to figure out how something seemingly local happening at a ballpark can suddenly connect with these huge national issues and even cultural moments. We've got reports, official statements, the whole 9 yards to sort through.
And what's really striking is just how fast it all seemed to happen. The escalation and then the response from the Dodgers, which was pretty immediate and decisive for a private company.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. The agents arrive.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Well, the sources we looked at say these ICE agents were first seen near the stadium exterior.
Near it. Oh.
Yeah, not like inside initially. And they were described, like you said, clad in tactical gear, most hiding their faces, using the stadium grounds as a sort of meeting place.
Staging area, almost.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Before they planned to fan out into the nearby neighborhoods for whatever operations they had planned.
And we're not talking just a couple of agents here.
No. Reports said dozens. It looked like preparation for something pretty significant.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Local officials, elected officials in L.A., they apparently got wind of this. They found out ICE was there.
Right. They alerted the stadium.
So knowing federal agents are using their property as a meetup point, what did the Dodgers actually do?
Well, they didn't wait around. The organization, the property owners, they told the agents straight up to leave their private property.
Like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And maybe even more telling, ICE apparently asked if they could use the parking lots, also private property.
And the Dodgers said?
Nope. Flat out denied them entry to the grounds. And this wasn't just hearsay. They confirmed it publicly, put out a statement on X, making it pretty clear where they stood.
Wow. Okay. And I read Councilmember Eunice Hernandez also confirmed this, that she was talking to the mayor's office, the Dodgers, security.
Yeah, exactly. A coordinated effort, it seems, between the city and the team to get the agents moved along.
And did it work? How quickly?
Apparently, yes. The reports indicate that by about 11 a.m. local time, most of them were gone. Just a few federal officers were still around the site.
That's remarkably fast, especially dealing with federal agents, a pretty unified front from the locals and the team.
It is. And it's especially notable, like you mentioned, in the context of what was happening more broadly.
Right, because the Dodgers hadn't really said much about ICE raids before this, had they?
Not really, no. As an organization, exactly. It suggests maybe a deeper commitment, which, is pretty significant given LA's history and stance on immigrant rights. It kind of reflects how local players, even big sports teams, can get drawn into these federal versus local dynamics.
All right, so you have this whole situation with ICE unfolding. But that wasn't the only headline involving the Dodgers around that time, was it? There was something with a singer.
Right, yeah. Another unexpected cultural moment. This involved a singer named Nessa. It was on a Saturday, just before a game against the Giants, their big rivals.
Okay, what happened?
She was scheduled to sing the National Anthem. The team reportedly asked her to sing it in English. Standard request, usually.
But she didn't.
Nope. She kind of shrugged off the request, as one report put it, and sang it entirely in Spanish.
Wow, that's a statement.
A very public one. And she knew it. She apparently said afterwards, I just felt like I needed to do it, para mi gente, for my people. And she even added something like, safe to say I'm never allowed in that stadium ever again. She clearly expected some backlash from the team.
Yeah, you'd think going directly against their request. But what was the Dodgers' reaction?
That's the surprising part. Again, they were actually really supportive, publicly anyway.
Really?
Yeah, they put out a statement saying there were, quote, no hard feelings, and that the team, quote, would be happy to have her back.
Huh. That's not what she expected, and probably not what a lot of people expected either, especially since this was also happening, you mentioned, on the same day as those No Kings protests against President Trump.
Exactly. It just adds another layer of political and cultural tension to the whole weekend surrounding the stadium.
It really makes you think about how these big organizations, these brands, walk that line, doesn't it? Especially when things get politically charged.
Absolutely. And you saw that play out in the reactions.
Mhm.
Mike Madrid, who's known as a GOP strategist, he actually commented on X about this.
Oh, what did he say?
He basically said that the immediate criticisms, the sort of hot takes attacking the Dodgers, seemed wrong or misguided.
And
He framed the Dodgers' actions, both with ICE and maybe the reaction to NESA, as a big move by a major organization with a global brand. He even added, haven't seen this from any comparable entity.
so even from my Republican strategist, a sense that this was significant, maybe even precedent setting for how big companies engage.
Potentially, yeah. Seeing a major sports team take such a clear stance, or at least appearing to, on a divisive issue like immigration enforcement, it definitely got noticed.
But not everyone saw it that way, I assume.
Definitely not. You had completely opposite reactions, too. For instance, conservative sports writer Clay Travis. He was reacting specifically to Neza singing in Spanish.
Okay, what was his take?
He told Fox News that it would be, his word, amazing if ICE actually did carry out a raid at Dodger Stadium.
Wait, amazing.
Yeah. He said, could you imagine if they did an ICE raid in the parking lot of the LA Dodgers Stadium?
Well,
That would be kind of amazing. So, a very different perspective there. Starkly different.
yeah, starkly different is right. It shows just how polarized these things can become.
And it's really important to remember the backdrop for all this. These incidents at the stadium, they weren't happening in isolation.
Right. You mentioned the broader context of ICE raids and protests in LA.
Exactly. The raids earlier that month had already become this major flashpoint in the city. Remember, LA has a long history of advocating for immigrant rights, so these raids hit a nerve.
And sparked protests.
Massive protests, yeah. Which then kind of spread, leading to demonstrations nationwide, according to the sources. It got pretty intense.
And the federal response to those protests?
Well, President Trump mobilized the National Guard. This was reportedly against the wishes of California Governor Gavin Newsom. He sent federalized soldiers, even U.S. Marines, into L.A. to try and crush the protests.
Federal troops in LA. Wow.
And he didn't stop there. He later announced sending another 2,000 federalized troops into the city.
That's a huge federal presence. Given all that, what were the results on the ground in terms of arrests or clashes?
It's interesting. Despite that massive federal deployment, an LAPD spokesperson told CNBC around that time that there hadn't actually been any protester arrests since that Saturday, the day of the National Anthem and the No Kings protest.
So maybe things calmed down slightly or the approach shifted?
Possibly.
Mm.
LA Mayor Karen Bass commented on it. She credited the city's curfew, combined with their own crime prevention efforts, for cutting down on violent clashes.
Okay.
Her point was that these measures helped protect communities and businesses from, as she put it, bad actors who weren't really concerned about the immigrant community itself, sort of separating protesters from others causing trouble.
Right, drawing a distinction. So, okay, let's try and pull these threads together. We started with ICE agents outside Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, which led to the Dodgers telling them to leave. A pretty bold move.
Then you have the Nessa incident singing the anthem in Spanish, and the Dodgers' surprisingly supportive reaction. All happening against this backdrop of major ICE raids, huge protests in LA, and a significant federal troop deployment.
Exactly. It all got intertwined. The actions of a private company, a sports team, and an artist's cultural expression, suddenly tangled up with federal policy and massive civil unrest, all converging in one city, around one stadium complex, really.
It's quite a confluence of events. It really shows how sports, culture, politics, they aren't always in separate boxes anymore, are they?
Not at all. They intersect in really complex, sometimes unexpected ways.
So wrapping this up, it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How do these huge organizations, these global brands that often try to stay out of politics, how do they even navigate this stuff anymore?
It's a huge challenge, especially when things heat up socially and politically.
Right. And what happens when they do take a stand, either by choice or because, like the Dodgers here, something lands right on their doorstep and forces a response? What are those ripple effects?
Yeah, what does it mean for their brand, for their fans, for corporate responsibility in general? It's definitely something to keep an eye on, how companies handle these situations going forward. A lot to mull over there.